Assalamu alaikum. No more walking today, just some driving. On our way to Regent's Park Masjid to deliver our yearly Ramadan lecture we do every year at Regent's Park. Topic there will be protecting the tongue during the month of Ramadan and other stuff like that. Anyway, so whilst we are on our way there, I wanted to touch upon the topic of divorce. Now, this topic is a deep one. It can be a sad one, can be a happy one. It depends, really. However, I just wanted to touch upon some of the rules and regulations of divorce, at-talaq, and some wisdom, hikam, benefits about the method and way in which Islam deals with divorce. Now, I'm not going to do a full-on lecture talking about the ins and outs of every nitty-gritty part of divorce, just enough to draw some benefit. And disclaimer off the bat, anybody who wants to get divorced or wants to give a divorce, or any sister who wants out of a marriage, and I say sister because divorce, generally speaking, refers to the man because he has the right to divorce, talaq, whereas a woman doesn't have the right of talaq. She can seek a khul', which is different, but it's not a talaq. What I'm talking about here is talaq, not khul'. So if anyone does have those concerns and wants out of a marriage, please go to the Sharia Council, and as I found out, there are more than one in London. So go to the relevant avenues. No talaq, no khul' can be given, as far as I know. But any old Joe, definitely not by me. Definitely not by me. So, moving on from there. I want to touch the mic. So, what is at-talaq? Now, first and foremost, Muslims are not Catholic. Walhamdulillah. We don't have this belief that if you are married, you have to stay married and you can never ever come out of marriage. That's not how it works out. Marriage, nikah, is an agreement, a contract between two people. This agreement states that they wish to and want to live with each other happily ever after if they can, but it is a contract of mutual agreement. If both parties want to continue, they do so. If they want out, they can end it if it doesn't work out. Islam doesn't have this vision that the marriages must work out. Yes, it can and it should if it can work out, because obviously it'd be nice if the children had the same mum and dad and blah blah blah, the rest of it. But not every marriage must continue, and not every person should stay in a marriage with the other person. So any idea that someone has that a marriage must work out and it has to work out is wrong. Sometimes they just have to end. So if a man wishes to end a marriage, he has the right to end the marriage. However, the purpose of this, or the main purpose of this video, besides drawing benefits about how Islam does it, the main purpose of this video is to highlight the real details and image of how marriage divorces work in Islam, and not the fallacy that it's just you're divorced and that's it, it's over. Yes, if a man so let's get started. Mr. Khan, he's not happy anymore. He wants out of the marriage. He says to his wife, you're divorced. And then what? Okay, first and foremost, when should he do it and when should he not? Now in Islam, a man, there's something called a Sunni divorce, i.e. divorce which occurs as it's supposed to happen, And there's something called a bid'i divorce, i.e. a divorce that is sinful. Now obviously no one wants to end a marriage on sin. At least you want it to end with mutual benefit, I guess, or at least minimizing the fitna. At least minimizing the fitna. So, what is the Sunni way of divorce? Okay, the Sunni method of divorce is the utterance or the pronouncement of talaq in unambiguous terms once after a woman has finished her monthly cycle and they have not had marital relations and interactions. This is what is known as a Sunni talaq. If they have had marital relations and she's not tahir, she's not after a cycle, then this is an example of a bid'i talaq, and it's sinful, so it shouldn't happen that way. Okay, so let's now follow the route. Mr. Khan is not happy. He utters this talaq. It's the first one. It's just one, and it's after the cycle, and nothing has happened between the two of them since then. Then that is a Sunni talaq. Okay, is it over? No. Well, first thing that has to happen is that she has what's known as an iddah, a period of time whereby he can take her back and he can continue on with the marriage, and there's no need to redo the marriage from scratch, i.e. there's no need for a new mahar, a new dowry. There's no need for a new contract. It's just a continuation of what was already there from the beginning. So from that already you can see that it isn't really the end just by the utterance. Like I said, I'm trying to deal with the fallacy that as soon as he utters those words, it's ended. It's not. And another evidence for that is the fact that during this period of time, she must stay in the house with him. She has the right to be looked after during that period of time. Full rights, full what's called nafaqah. And nafaqah is the Islamic or the Arabic term for the sustenance or the provision that the husband has to provide for the wife. So if he says to her that she's divorced, then she has rights to stay in the house. They live together for that iddah period until it's concluded. And if it is that iddah period, that time from the utterance until the end of that period is concluded and he hasn't taken her back, then and only then the marriage is concluded, it's finished. And if he wants to remarry her, then he has to have a new mahar, a new dowry, a new contract, a new agreement, everything, just like scratch. But until that moment happens, she is still his wife, he is still her husband, and they are still in the marriage. And that's aside a Sunni talaq. Okay, so in this time period, this iddah, how long was this iddah? Well, it just so happens that the iddah, there are different ways or different measurements of time this iddah should be or can be, and this measurement depends on the woman's situation. So if the woman is with child, then until she gives birth to that child, then they are still married. So if he gives the talaq at conception, or not at conception, but if he gives talaq early on and 9 months or 8 months have passed, obviously she's with child, then he has to look after her just like as if she's her wife. And if he doesn't take her back until she gives birth, then the marriage is over. So the time period is quite long in that respect. but at the same time, it could be very short. If he gives the talaq a week or two before birth, then that's the iddah period. So the iddah period for a woman who's pregnant can be long, can be short. Okay, say if she's not pregnant. Okay, well then it is 3 cycles, three female cycles. Once those 3 cycles have occurred, then the marriage is over, and that's the iddah period for such a woman. And the iddah period for those who don't have a monthly cycle is 3 months. Anyway, that is what is known as the iddah. Okay, next one. How does he take her back? Okay, that's simple. Verbally, you're going to say, okay, look, I said some harsh words, we had an argument, but now I want to continue the love we had from before. Let's just give it another go, let's give it another try. Sufficient. There's nothing more that needs to be done. Or marital interactions, if that occurs, he's taken her back. There doesn't even have to be anything said, it's understood. And that's one of the many reasons or ways in which a man can take her back. What are some of the wisdom? Which is, now let's touch upon the hikam, the wisdom. Why are things the way they are? This issue of the iddah, this period of time whereby man has to look after her and a marriage contract or the ending of it hasn't concluded. There are many wisdoms attached to it. Some of the hikam have been mentioned from before by some of the elder scholars, and one of them, I suspect, may be an illah, may be a reason for it. But one thing is important to remember about the issue of hikam or wisdom. Hikmah is wisdom, hikam is just plural of that. So whenever people mention hikam, wisdom, behind this act or that act or this deed or that deed, it's very important not to get confused between sabab, which also means like reason in Arabic, but they're different. A hikmah is a benefit that you can draw from a particular ruling or act. It doesn't mean that ruling or act is dependent upon that ruling. Listen carefully. There may be a benefit in doing something, which is why the ruling gives that ruling, but it doesn't mean it's dependent upon that ruling. So let me give an example of traveling. Yes, the wisdom, or one of the wisdom, the hikam of shortening or allowing to shorten your prayers when you're traveling, is that traveling is difficult. And if you're fasting, it's difficult as it is. And then if you want to add to that difficulty, more difficulty, then Islam gives you a rukhsa, an allowance to fast another time. Fast when it's not so difficult to fast. That's a hikmah, that's a wisdom. But if the journey isn't difficult, and it's quite easy actually, does that mean you can still break your fast? Yes, it doesn't mean that. Just because the allowance of breaking your fast during travel has a wisdom behind it, it doesn't mean that wisdom or the act is dependent on that wisdom. So that's what I'm trying to say. So back to the issue of what we're trying to say here, the hikam. One of the hikam is istibra' al-rahim, what they call making sure the womb is empty. That's what literally it means. Istibra' al-rahim. So in Islam, it is absolutely important, really, really, really important that the lineage is preserved. Hence why zina is so harshly punished, because children outside of wedlock is a big problem. So knowing who your father is paramount, so important. So if a woman was allowed to move on from a marriage, and then she was to remarry, but she was still with child from the first person, then there'll be a confusion. Who is the father? The first person or the second person? So that's one of the main reasons that has been mentioned in the past why there is an iddah period for a woman, whereby you must stay in the house of the man and so on and so forth, and she can't get married to someone else during that period. Is to make sure that nothing is there, that there are no children on their way, and that that the lineage is preserved. That's straightforward. Also, it's to allow an opportunity for reconciliation. That's given. Hence why she must stay in his house. And I always tell people who come to me with consultation about their issues that whatever the case may be, there is none of this thing where he moves out or she moves out. No, you stay living together. You have sabr with the situation until the issue is resolved, until the marriage, until the iddah period has been resolved. Maybe during that time you reconcile, maybe during that time you think twice, and maybe you continue with your marriage. It could happen. But whilst you're in that state, give it a chance. And as Allah says in the Quran, لَعَلَّ اللَّهَ يُحْدِثُ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ أَمْرًا. It's mentioned in the Quran, maybe after this talaq, يُحْدِثُ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ أَمْرًا, an affair, something will occur after. Now the scholars of tafsir have said that this thing that will occur after could be awlad, children. He wasn't happy with his wife. He had their arguments all the time. Kept on shouting and screaming. He says to her, "You're divorced." But then what happens? He finds that she's pregnant. And he thinks to himself, maybe I'll give it another go. Maybe I'll try again. And maybe that child will bring the hearts together. So that's what the issue is. What Allah says in the end of that first ayah, لَعَلَّ اللَّهَ يُحْدِثُ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ أَمْرًا. Maybe Allah will bring together something that will happen after. So that's one of another wisdom of there being an iddah period and it being that long. But from a psychological reason, a psychological purpose, it has been observed through statistical observation and psychological analysis. What's psychological analysis? Through psychological research into people who have had divorce or had breakups, they've noticed an important and intriguing phenomena. The difference between which makes a man very different from a woman. And this also gives rise to the wisdom why the method whereby a man gets divorced is different from the way a woman gets divorced, which is, like I said, for khulu, which we're not discussing right now. A woman doesn't have the right to just end the marriage by a statement, but a man does. Let's have a look at some of the hikam, the wisdom behind it, or the potential wisdom behind it. It is said that it is said that men, generally speaking, this is over statistical analysis of a wide data set of people, that men tend to not be so upset initially, but as time moves on and time progresses, their yearning for their wife gets stronger and stronger, and they tend to pine after their loved one. And as time moves on, it gets worse for them, funnily enough. So he may, for example, he may utter divorce and be quite confident with his decision. But it's very common for him to feel regret as time goes on, with that regret intensifying as time goes on. And they say even up to years. Whereas the woman is different. Statistically speaking, they've noticed that women, on average, tend to be the opposite. They tend to be very intense in emotion initially, but after, they say, listen carefully, this is what's important, after about 3 months, they tend to get over it quite quickly, which is the opposite. So you would say that a man, after a long period of time, gets worse and worse and worse, whereas they tend to notice that a woman pretty much gets over him at the 3-month period, which coincides with the Iddah. So when I heard about this, I was quite surprised. My mind went flashing. SubhanAllah, look at the wisdom of Allah, that literally, as the Iddah period was set, she was ready to move on. So many things could be said about this. This could be taken as a means for the woman to get over the divorce easily, as opposed to just divorcing her and then kicking her out to the curb. Rather, there is a period of time whereby she has mourning, you could say. She can feel better about the situation, and once that period of time has moved on, then she is ready to make the right decisions in finding someone else to marry, and in marrying someone else. The worst thing a woman could do is to rush into a situation where she hasn't got over the first one. So as a means and mechanism to prevent abuse of the woman, she is given a period of time to get over the situation before she moves on. Whereas for the man's perspective, he is given enough time to regret his situation, to regret his decision, and take her back. But I just find it interesting that this 3-month period that psychologists have mentioned, that usually takes for a woman to get over a loved one, coincides with the Iddah period of Al-Islam. Anyway, I thought I would share this little nugget of information that I picked up, and hopefully, inshallah, you benefited from understanding the wisdom behind why things are the way they are in Al-Islam when it comes to divorce. Inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow. Press the like button, subscribe, press the bell button as usual, and we'll see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum.